In recent years, Kern County, and more specifically Bakersfield, saw more homicides a year per capita than any other jurisdiction in California. In 2016, the county had the highest homicide rate in the state. Law enforcement and city officials have been working to address these high rates, and it seems some things might be working.
Across the country, you see that it's a very small percentage of people that drive high percentages of violent crime. Oftentimes, it's less than 1/10 of 1% of the population can account for as much as 50 to 60% of the gun violence that goes on.
Just this year, the city of Bakersfield announced that from 2021 to 2024, homicide rates dropped 57% and non-injury shootings dropped 60%. In fact, Bakersfield Police Assistant Chief Brent Stratton said instances of shootings altogether are dropping.
It gives me hope. It gives me hope for our community.
There's even a ShotSpotter call here.
One of the tools the police department uses to monitor gun activity in the city is ShotSpotter, a system made up of sensors placed strategically around town to detect the sound of gunfire and alert law enforcement. Stratton said the sensors were placed in parts of town that have historically high rates of gun violence.
What we found out that in about 90 to 91% of every ShotSpotter alert that we get, we do not receive a corresponding 911 call. So for us, it's a better indicator of what's actually happening so we can respond.
When the department first began using ShotSpotter in 2018, the range spanned around a 3-square-mile radius. According to police, there were 358 activations that year. For the next 2 years, activations increased, with 645 activations in 2020. At the end of 2020, the department expanded ShotSpotter mileage from 3 square miles to 6. The following year, they had 1,130 ShotSpotter activations, the highest recorded yet. 2020 and 2021 also proved to be some of the deadliest years for the Bakersfield area. In 2020, BPD reported 45 homicides and 60 in 2021.
We were seeing sharp increases, a real time where it was a big problem for us in our community. This became one of the main priorities of the city.
In response, the city began looking into avenues to address gun violence and homicide, eventually focusing on the California Violence Intervention Program, with $4.5 million awarded through the state and another $1 million in Measure N funds. The city implemented in 2022 a gun violence reduction strategy, and this year announced its Office of Violence Intervention and Prevention.
So some of the things that we were noticing back in the day was that, one, we noticed that a lot of the crime that was happening was being done by a small population.
Focusing our efforts on those who are at highest risk of contributing to gun violence, while also being able to utilize community-based organizations to focus our efforts on those who are at highest risk of being a victim of gun violence.
According to city officials, between July of 2020 and June of 2022, 104 homicides and 99 non-deadly shootings could be attributed to 380 people involved as victims or identified suspects. City officials have identified 116 people as being considered high risk for gun violence. Of those, 64 were engaged by intervention and outreach community partners, and out of those, 33 were considered the highest risk, with 24 successfully enrolled in intensive case management through community partners and social workers.
We want to get them from moving away from this lifestyle, but we also need to address some of the barriers from education, basic needs, relocation of the housing, employment.
Mercedes Mayers first joined the city's gun violence reduction strategy team in 2020. Now, she's OVIP's outreach program supervisor. She said one of their initial challenges was taking various community organizations who'd been doing this work individually for decades and creating a collaboration.
I can honestly say the organizations in which we work with, Garden Pathways, Wendell Davis, Stay Focused, Compassion Christian Center, CAPK, they're known for going out in the community and really building those relationships with our community members. And now, as we're all here at the table, they're all utilizing their strengths to come together.
Stratton said utilizing these methods and tools like ShotSpotter not only allowed law enforcement to respond more efficiently to shootings, but even prevent shootings by intervening before retaliation can occur.
We can work on prevention as it relates to those who are really driving gun violence. But as it relates to preventing things from occurring as it relates to getting victims to move off of a path of retaliation. That can only come from our community-based partners.
As these efforts from the city and police continued, reports of shootings from ShotSpotter began to shift. In fact, in 2022, the same year the city implemented its gun violence reduction strategy, ShotSpotter activations went down for the first time. Even with the expanded mileage of 6 square miles, 2022 saw 801 ShotSpotter activations. In 2023, that number went down to 741 activations. And last year, activations were 487, just over 100 more than what BPD saw in 2018 when they only had a 3 square mile radius.
It also is a reminder to not take our foot off the gas. This is just how work has to be done going forward. And for a city that's our size, what is a normal rate of violence to occur? And we're really getting to the point where we're having that conversation because we've seen real reductions.
And these efforts are not only from department heads, but from boots on the ground. As I reported this story, I got the opportunity to see what officers are seeing and learn how community partners are working to reach the youth in our neighborhoods who may be the most susceptible to gun violence. In the next part of this series, I'll take a deeper look at those efforts and issues. In Bakersfield, I'm Veronica Morley, your senior reporter.